Hi everyone, I hope your week is going well. This week we will be going over Chapter 3. Chapter 3 will talk about how Texas functions in the federal system, meaning how they merge their powers with in between themselves. Um, Texas has a different way of actually dealing with things on a federal level. And when it comes to federalism, and it may surprise you in terms of different things that have been conducted. And I will just go back as far as 2016, which is, dealing with this photo that you see to the left here. And then I will also talk about the recent issues with how the state attorney general here in Texas, Attorney General Paxton, filed the lawsuit of trying to overturn the election of other states, first of its kind. And as we know, it was dismissed. So Texas is a little different when it comes to dealing with federalism, and we'll get into that within the chapter. Also, too, we will talk about how Texas deals with abortion rights. I'll show you a couple videos, and it will be focused around McAllen, Texas, and this again happened in 2016, and what the United States Supreme Court actually ruled. And while I talked about nullification in Chapter 2, there is still such a thing as the United States Supreme Court being the law of the land, and that's by way of the Supremacy Clause in the United States Constitution. So therefore, when the Supreme Court makes a ruling, everyone, all states, have to abide by it. But again, sometimes states invoke nullification, meaning, oh, we don't have to follow that rule. We're going to do it our way. And Texas is one of those states. Also, too, I'll show another video that talks about a bill, the Texas HB 896, that came about in 2019. It was in the 86 legislature. And when it says when I say HB, or if you see it, that means House bill. The House of Representatives here in Texas authored the bill, and the author is Tony Hilb. And I wanted to share this video with you because it just kind of really explains the severity and the in-depthness and the ideology of some lawmakers that we may not have individually voted into the state legislature, but maybe we have, because it depends on where you live and what district you're in. But it just gives you an insight as to how individuals think and how their thought process can be developed into public policies that can impact you. And when I say you, I mean women in particular when it comes to abortion, and want to dictate what choices you have with your own body. So it just comes to the part of, where do you draw the line in the sand? Also, too, we will be watching a video. It's about 40 minutes long during the lecture on Chapter 3, and it will give you a good example of how federalism actually works. And it happened in Galveston, and it was in 1900. But it's a real interesting story, and a lot of times when things have happened in the past, and you're not aware of it, you have no idea of how it impacts modern times. So it's a good example of that. Also, too, I will cover Obamacare. And why am I going back to the Obama administration? It's because Texas really had a lot of pushback on the Obama administration, especially about Obamacare. And I will talk about how it impacts Texas still today. And you will learn within this chapter that whenever a state government decides not to be a part of a federal policy, and that's why I have the cartoon I put up to introduce this chapter, is the public does not know that with those policies comes funding. And the reason why the funding comes is so that you can implement the policy. Well, if you say, no, I don't want the policy, then that means you can't have the money. And so what that does is, when you say no to the policy and you don't have the money, then the citizens are left on their own, and in this case, healthcare. So we will go more into that about how Obamacare and the healthcare industry here is really bad, which is hard to say, but it is. And that's why Texas is a state that has the highest uninsured individuals, meaning they don't have health insurance. And if you notice, depending on what city you live in or county you live in, resources are very scarce. I mean, unless you live in like a metropolitan area, say like Austin or San Antonio or Houston, Dallas, it has to be a very large area. And everyone else has a little difficulty. You have to travel in order to get services. And then also, I'll finish up the chapter with discussing the Mexico border. This all began, as we all know, during the Trump administration, and he came in with it of having this goal, and Mexico is going to pay for it, and that's not what happened. And I will also share a video, which I'm pretty sure is available now, of the scandal that's going on behind this border that was not completed. And it's only about maybe 50 miles, and most of it was replacing what was already there. So it's real interesting of how all of that comes into play, and also how it impacts Texas. So this concludes the Chapter 3 overview.